Rejection is not a dead end, it's a detour. It's life, the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, guiding you towards something better, something bigger, something you were truly meant for. But here's the problem. Most people don't see it that way. Most people take rejection personally. They let it define them instead of refine them. They think, if I was rejected, that must mean I'm not good enough. That must mean I'm not worthy. And that belief right there, that's the real failure. The truth is, rejection isn't personal, it's directional. It's a sign that you were knocking on the wrong door. And what's the point of banging on a door that was never meant for you in the first place? That rejection you're so afraid of might be the best thing that ever happened to you. Because when one door closes, another one doesn't just open, it forces you to look for something better, something that fits you, something that aligns with your true path. Think about it. How many times in your life have you been devastated over something that didn't work out, only to look back years later and realize that it was a blessing in disguise? Maybe it was a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended, an opportunity that slipped through your fingers. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. But then something better came along. Something that wouldn't have been possible if you hadn't been rejected first. Rejection isn't the universe shutting you down, it's the universe setting you up. It's removing distractions, it's clearing the path, it's making sure you don't settle for less than you deserve. Because let's be real, how often do people get comfortable in places that aren't meant for them? How often do people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, or situations that are beneath their potential just because they're afraid of rejection? Rejection forces you to move. It pushes you forward. It makes you reevaluate, re-strategize, and level up. The people who succeed in life aren't the ones who never face rejection. They're the ones who use rejection as a compass. Instead of letting it break them, they let it build them. Instead of seeing it as a loss, they see it as a lesson. Instead of stopping, they pivot. Look at some of the most successful people in the world. They all faced rejection. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Walt Disney was told he had no imagination. Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC, was rejected over 1,000 times before someone finally gave his recipe a chance. If they had taken rejection as a sign to quit, the world would have missed out on their greatness. And the same goes for you. If you take rejection as a final answer, you're cutting yourself off from the opportunities that are still ahead. You're giving up on the bigger picture just because you hit a rough patch. Here's what you need to understand. Rejection is simply a filter. It filters out the people who are not fully committed from the ones who are. It separates the ones who kind of want it from the ones who will do whatever it takes. When you get rejected, you have two choices. You can either retreat or you can reroute. Life is constantly shifting things around for you. The rejection you face today might be the very thing that leads you to something extraordinary tomorrow. You just have to trust the process. You have to trust that even when things don't go according to your plan, they are still going according to a greater plan. If you were meant for something, no rejection can stop you. If you weren't meant for it, no amount of forcing, begging, or pushing will make it yours. And that's a good thing. Because when you finally get what is truly meant for you, it will be bigger, better, and more aligned with who you are than anything you ever lost. Rejection is just the universe saying, not this, not now, not here, keep going. Rejection is one of the greatest tests of resilience. It separates those who truly want something from those who only think they do. When you get rejected, it's not just about that one moment. It's about how you respond to it. Most people let rejection break them. They take it personally, internalize it, and allow it to damage their confidence. But the ones who rise, the ones who achieve greatness, they use rejection as a training ground to build unshakable mental toughness. Think about this. Every rejection is an opportunity to strengthen your mindset. It's a chance to develop the ability to keep pushing forward even when things don't go your way. It's a moment to prove to yourself that you are bigger than a no. Because let's be honest, life is full of rejection. It's unavoidable. The only way to never experience rejection is to never put yourself out there. And if you're not putting yourself out there, you're not growing. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through experience. And rejection is one of the greatest teachers of resilience. Every time you hear no and keep going, you become stronger. Every time you fail and try again, you become more unstoppable. Every time you get knocked down and stand back up, you prove to yourself that nothing can break you. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who had everything handed to them. They're the ones who faced the most rejection and kept moving forward anyway. They didn't let rejection define them. They used it to refine them. They saw every closed door as a challenge, not a defeat. They understood that rejection wasn't a reflection of their worth, but a test of their determination. Imagine if every time you were rejected, instead of feeling defeated, you felt empowered. Instead of doubting yourself, you told yourself this is just part of the process. Imagine if every rejection made you more confident, not less. That's the power of mental toughness. Rejection is like lifting weights for your mind. The more you experience it and push through it, the stronger you become. If you never face rejection, you never build the endurance to handle life's bigger challenges. You never develop the emotional muscle needed to persevere when things get tough. Look at athletes. They don't become champions by winning every game. They become champions by learning from their losses, by pushing through their failures, by training harder after every setback. The same applies to you. Rejection is just another rep in your mental gym. Every time you face it, you're getting stronger. And let's be real, most people give up way too soon. They hear a few no's and decide it wasn't meant to be. They take rejection as a stop sign instead of a speed bump. But those who are truly committed, those who refuse to let rejection break them, they're the ones who reach the top. They understand that rejection is not failure, it's feedback. It's information. It's a challenge to improve, to adapt, to come back stronger. Think about the greats. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. He could have let that rejection crush him, but instead he used it as motivation. He trained harder, pushed himself further, and became one of the greatest basketball players of all time. If he had let that one rejection define him, we would have never heard his name. Rejection builds mental toughness because it forces you to choose. Will you let this defeat you, or will you rise above it? Will you let one setback destroy your confidence, or will you use it as proof that you're willing to fight for what you want? Every time you keep going after rejection, you become more unstoppable. Every time you refuse to let rejection shake your belief in yourself, you become mentally tougher. If you avoid rejection, you avoid growth. If you embrace rejection, you build the kind of mindset that nothing can break. Rejection has the power to crush you or fuel you. The choice is yours. Most people take rejection as a sign to stop, to give up, to doubt themselves. But the people who achieve greatness, they take that same rejection and turn it into motivation, energy, and drive. They use it as proof that they need to push harder, get better, and prove to themselves that they are capable of more. Rejection stings. Let's not pretend it doesn't. It can make you feel unworthy, overlooked, or like you're not good enough. But those feelings, they are not facts. They are simply emotions that you can either control or let control you. And this is where the shift happens. When you decide that rejection will not weaken you, but instead become the very thing that drives you forward. Think about the times in your life when someone doubted you. Maybe it was a teacher who didn't believe in you, a boss who passed you over for a promotion, a person who walked away from you, or a dream you chased that didn't work out the first time. In those moments, you had two choices. Let the rejection define you, or let it ignite you. The people who rise after rejection don't just move on, they use it. They take that frustration, that disappointment, and they channel it into action. There's something powerful about having something to prove, not to others, but to yourself. It creates a fire inside of you. It makes you work harder than ever before. It forces you to dig deeper, train longer, and refuse to accept anything less than success. Rejection isn't the end of the road. It's the start of a new level of intensity. Look at some of the greatest success stories in history. Every single one of them faced rejection. But instead of letting it break them, they used it as fuel to push forward. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job because they said she wasn't fit for TV. Instead of quitting, she used that rejection as fuel and became one of the most influential media moguls in history. Elon Musk was rejected over and over again by investors, by critics, by people who said Tesla and SpaceX would fail. Instead of giving up, he worked even harder, proving everyone wrong and revolutionizing entire industries. Stephen King had his first book, Carrie, rejected 30 times before it was published. He didn't stop. He didn't give in. He used every rejection letter as motivation to keep writing, keep improving, and keep pushing forward. This is what separates people who succeed from those who don't. The ones who succeed take rejection personally, but in the right way. They don't take it as an attack on their worth. They take it as a challenge to get better, a challenge to push past limits, a challenge to come back stronger. When you get rejected, you have to reframe the way you see it. Instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, shift your mindset to, I'm not good enough yet. That single word, yet, changes everything. It doesn't mean you'll never succeed. It means you need to adjust, improve, and use the rejection as energy to propel yourself forward. Some of the best revenge against rejection isn't anger or resentment. It's massive success. It's proving to yourself that you are unstoppable. It's showing the world that their rejection only made you stronger, sharper, and more determined than ever. There's nothing more powerful than turning rejection into a driving force that fuels your hunger to win. Rejection can make you bitter, or it can make you relentless. If you channel that energy correctly, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Rejection is one of the greatest teachers in life. It has lessons that success will never give you. When things go smoothly, when everything works out the first time, you don't stop to analyze, reflect, or improve. But when you get rejected, when a door slams in your face, you're forced to pay attention. You're forced to ask questions, to look deeper, and to figure out what needs to change. That's why rejection isn't something to fear, it's something to study. Most people take rejection personally. They assume it's a sign that they're not good enough or that they should stop trying. But rejection isn't an attack on your worth, it's information, it's feedback. It's revealing something you might not have seen on your own. The question is, are you paying attention? Every rejection carries a message. Sometimes it's telling you that you need to sharpen your skills. Sometimes it's telling you that you need to improve your approach. And sometimes it's simply telling you that you're knocking on the wrong door and need to pivot. But if you're too caught up in feeling disappointed or embarrassed, you'll miss the lesson that rejection is trying to teach you. Think about some of the most successful people in the world. They didn't just face rejection, they learned from it. Instead of running from it, they asked themselves, what can I do better? What do I need to change? How can I grow from this? Take Thomas Edison, for example. He failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. But in his own words, he didn't see those failures as defeats. He saw them as steps in the learning process. Every rejection, every failed attempt gave him new insights into what worked and what didn't. He was constantly learning, constantly adjusting, constantly getting closer to success. Now imagine if he had stopped after his first rejection. Imagine if he had let the failures discourage him instead of educate him. The world would be a very different place. Rejection teaches you resilience. It forces you to develop a growth mindset, to understand that success isn't about getting everything right the first time. It's about learning, adapting, and coming back stronger. Every no you hear is another piece of data. It's another clue that can guide you toward improvement. But here's the key. You have to be willing to listen. You have to approach rejection with curiosity instead of self-pity. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of thinking, I guess I'm not good enough, think, What do I need to work on? Some of the most successful people in business, sports, and entertainment got to where they are because they treated rejection like a lesson plan. They analyzed what went wrong. They studied their mistakes. They made adjustments. And then they tried again, smarter, stronger, and better than before. Rejection also teaches you humility. It reminds you that no one is above learning, that no one is entitled to success without effort. Even the most talented people in the world have had to face rejection, criticism, and setbacks. The difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck is simple. The ones who rise use rejection as an opportunity to grow. The truth is, rejection is not the enemy. Ignoring the lesson behind it is. If you can shift your perspective and start seeing rejection as a teacher instead of a roadblock, you will unlock a level of personal growth that most people never reach. Instead of avoiding rejection, embrace it, study it, and let it guide you toward becoming the best version of yourself.